We're in section 9.1. I'm at the top on page 3. The example says test whether P1 is less than P2 at the alpha equals 0.05 level of significance. Sample data is given. If you notice, you have X1, N1, X2, and N2. Assume that the samples were obtained independently using a simple random sample. So first thing on here says to determine your null in your alternative hypotheses. So H0 and H1. And we are testing if P1, it's written up above, if P1 is less than P2. And your null is always going to be set up as P1 is equal to P2. Determine the test statistic. And so we have a z value for our proportions. So we are going to go to stat test, and we need to go to 2 prop z test. When you do that, you're going to be asked to enter in all your information. You know, alpha is 0.05, so your confidence level is going to be 95%. And when you go ahead and put all this in, you're going to get a test statistic. And those values that you need to put in are listed just right up here. And your test statistic is going to be z equals, and it's negative 0.35. Determine the p-value and conduct the test. So all that in, you're also going to notice that you have the p-value. And your p-value is equal to 0.3649, which is greater than alpha. Alpha, again, it was given to us as 0.05. And this means that we do not reject our null. So writing our conclusion, there is not sufficient evidence at the alpha equals 0.05 level of significance to conclude that we don't really know what the problem's discussing, so I'm just going to write down what we have as our alternative hypothesis. P1 is less than P2. The next part on here says to construct a confidence interval approximate for the hypothesis test in part C. So I'm going to draw a picture of a normal bell-shaped curve since we're dealing with test statistic of z. And since alpha is 0.05 and this is a left-tailed test, that means that this area in here is 0.05. This is our alpha. It's a left-tailed test. But when you do confidence intervals, you always need to have it set up with the middle that you're being confident about. So I need to make another tail over here. And since this is symmetric, this tail is also going to be 0.05. So that means that the middle in here is going to be 0.90. So my confidence level is going to be 0.90. So not 95, it's 0.90. So again, drawing the picture and setting that up is very helpful. So in order to do this, you guys are going to use so we have 2 samp z ends, and when you do that, you should notice that those numbers are copied right on over. And going through and making sure that you have the same numbers in, just double checking. When you do that, you should get an interval. It's going to go from negative 0.061 to 0.040. And if you notice, one of the values is negative and one of the values is positive, which means that 0 is in the interval. And on the previous page, it stated what happens if 0 is in the interval. And it says if 0 is in the confidence interval, then we do not reject the null hypothesis. So, do not reject H naught. And again, on the calculator, this was using 2 prop z int.